What is up guys, it's Cal, and in this video we'll be going over Disciplined Priests on the Battle for Azeroth Beta. Now just like the rest of my overview videos, we'll be talking about the baseline abilities as well as the passives, and then the talents, including the PvP talents. And also this video isn't to show you which talents to pick for the best healing, or if Discipline is better than Holy at healing. This is merely to show you what's to come. So let's get started. Here are all the baseline abilities for Disciplined Priests. So let's start off with Leap of Faith, which is unchanged at all, still a 1.5 minute cooldown, use it on a friendly target, and it pulls them to you. Smite is also unchanged. You deal holy damage to the enemy and absorbs the next amount of damage dealt by the enemy. Shadow Word Pain, the only change to it, which is across other priest specs, is that it will last on the target for 16 seconds instead of 18 seconds. So just a very minor change there. Dispel Magic is unchanged, still dispels magic on the enemy target, removes one beneficial magic effect. Purify is unchanged, still 8-second cooldown, you dispel a harmful effect on the target, removing all magic effects and disease effects. Mass Dispel, the only change to Mass Dispel is its cooldown is actually going up from 15 seconds to 45 seconds. So much longer cooldown there. As far as the effect goes, it has the same effect. It removes all harmful magic from 5 friendly targets and 1 beneficial magic effect from 5 enemy targets. And it can remove things like bubbles and whatnot. Now, Desperate Prayer is coming back to Disciplined Priests, because I believe this was a level 60 talent in Miss Pandaria. Then it was changed to only Holy Priests have it in Legion. Now Disciplined Priests get it again. And it's a 1.5 minute cooldown, increases max health by 25% for 10 seconds, and it will heal you for that amount. So after that 10 seconds, you won't lose the 25% health like some other spells and abilities have. Now Rapture is actually getting buffed, so its cooldown is going down from 2 minutes to 1.5 minutes, and its effect is reworked. So for the next 10 seconds, Power Word Shield absorbs an additional 200% damage. So on live, that's for the next 8 seconds, and I believe your artifact weapon may that go up to 12 seconds, but we won't have artifact weapons anymore, so it's a strict 10 seconds, and it will no longer take away Power Word Shield CD, because I will be talking about Power Word Shield in a minute, but I'll just let you know now, Power Word Shield no longer has a cooldown. So what it will do now is improve Power Word Shield's absorbs by an additional 200%. Power Word Barrier is unchanged, still a 3-minute cooldown. It summons a Holy Barrier to protect all allies at the target's location for 10 seconds, reduces all damage taken by 25% and preventing damage from delaying spellcasting. Now Pain Suppression is getting buffed, so the effect is actually the same, reduces all damage taken by a friendly target for 40% for 8 seconds, and it's castable while stunned. Its cooldown is going down from a base of 4 minutes to 3 minutes. I believe your artifact weapon actually made that like 3 minutes and 20 seconds, but it's going to be 3 minutes now. Now, Fade has not been changed at all. Still a 30-second cooldown. You remove all your threat for 10 seconds. Shackle Undead is also unchanged. You can shackle an undead enemy for 50 seconds. Prevents them from doing anything, and only one undead target can be shackled at a time. Now, Penance is unchanged. Still a 9-second cooldown. You can use it on an enemy or friendly target. It can deal damage, or it can heal your friendly targets, and you can cast it while moving. Now, as I mentioned before, Power Word Shield is getting changed. Well, its effect is actually staying the same. Shields an ally for 15 seconds, absorbing damage and preventing damage from delaying spellcasting, but it no longer has a cooldown. Shadow Mend is unchanged. Still wraps an ally in shadows, which heal them for a certain amount, but at a price. The ally will take some damage every 1 second until they've taken about half of the damage you healed them for, total from all sources, or after they leave combat. Power Word Radiance is unchanged. 18-second cooldown, still has 2 charges. A Burst of Light heals a target and 4 injured allies within 30 yards for some amount, and applies atonement for 60% of its normal duration. Now Holy Nova is actually returning to Disciplined Priests because it was removed in Legion, and it causes an explosion of holy light around you, dealing holy damage to all enemies, and then it heals allies within 12 yards. Now for Shadow Fiend, the only change to Shadow Fiend is it will last for 15 seconds, whereas on live it lasts for a base of 12 seconds. Its cooldown is still the same, still a 3-minute cooldown. Now Psychic Scream, not changed at all, still a 1-minute cooldown. 5 enemies around you flee. Resurrection, not changed at all. You still res people. Mass Resurrection is still the exact same. You can raise your whole party or raid. Power Word Fortitude is returning to Priest, so this was actually a Discipline Honor talent, which increased stamina by 20%, I believe, but you can only put it on 3 targets. Well, a lot of people remember how Power Word Fortitude was pre-Legion, when class buffs were a thing. Well, that Power Word Fortitude is coming back. You infuse a target with Vitality, increasing their stamina by 10% for 1 hour. And if you use it once in a party or raid, it applies to everyone in your party and raid. And that's awesome that this move is coming back. Mind Control is not changed at all. You can still control a target's mind. That's 1 level above you for 30 seconds. Levitate, not changed at all. For 10 minutes, the person you use it on can float. They can walk in water. They can slow fall, all that stuff. Mind Vision is not changed. You can see through a target's eyes unless they're in an instance or another continent. Now, as you see here, Plea which was a basic heal on live, is no longer a thing. So please getting removed. So let's take a look at the passive abilities. So first off with Atonement. So Atonement has been changed. First, it doesn't include Plea anymore because Plea isn't a thing. It affects Power Word Shield, Shadow Mend, and Power Word Radiance. They apply Atonement to your target for 15 seconds. Now your spell damage heals all targets affected by Atonement for 55% of the damage done. Now that 55% is a static 55 because I'll talk about your mastery in a minute, but your mastery no longer increases that base amount of Atonement. Because on live, that's a base of 40%, and then the more mastery you have, it goes up from 40%. Now in BFA, it's a base of 55% and it just doesn't move at all. So Focused Will is unchanged. Melee attacks against you cause you to gain Focused Will, reducing damage taken by 15% for 8 seconds, stacks up to 2 times. And then as I mentioned, your mastery has changed a bit. Your healing and absorption is increased by some amount of percentage on targets with Atonement. So looking back at Atonement, players who are affected by Atonement, all spell damage you deal will heal them for 55% of your damage done. And then your mastery, all players that have Atonement, you're straight up just healing against them, and absorption is increased by a certain amount. And then Power of the Dark Side is a new passive ability, though this was an artifact trait. So as I mentioned, we all know we won't have our artifact weapons anymore, so they made Power of the Dark Side baseline for Discipline Priests. So it does the same thing. Shadow Word Pain has a chance to empower your next penance with Shadow, increasing its effectiveness by 50%. Now those are all the baseline abilities. Let's take a look at the talents. So as for the talents of Disc Priest, and I will actually be going over the PvP talents as well, just in case you care about those, but for the normal talents, Castigation is unchanged. Still passive, Penance fires 1 additional bolt of Holy Light over its duration. Twist of Fate is not changed at all as well. Still a passive. After healing a target below 35% health, you deal 20% increased damage and 20% increased healing for 10 seconds. Now Schism has been changed. Its cooldown is going up from 6 seconds to 24 seconds. You attack the enemy soul with a surge of shadow energy, dealing shadow damage and increasing damage that you deal to the target by 40%, whereas on live that's 30%, and it's for 9 seconds, whereas on live it's 6 seconds. So the effect has been buffed a bit, but the cooldown has gone up quite a bit. As for the level 30 tier, Angelic Feather is not changed at all. Still a 20-second recharge, 3 charges. You can lay feathers on the ground, people can run through them. It increases their movement speed by 40% for 5 seconds. Now Body and Soul just has one small change to it. Power Word Shield and Leap of Faith increase your target's movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. That's baseline, but it says can occur once every 6 seconds. The reason the last part was put in there is because Power Word Shield no longer has a cooldown. As we know, you can't just spam Power Word Shield on a person and their movement speed just stays increased. And then Masochism is not changed at all, still a passive. When you cast Shadow Mend on yourself, its damage over time effect heals you instead and reduces all damage you take by 10%. So now the thing about the level 45 tier and the level 60 tier is that they're pretty much the same, except they've been swapped. I don't really know why, but going through them, the level 45 tier, Power Word Solace, is unchanged. It still has a cooldown based off your haste, strikes an enemy with heavenly power, dealing holy damage and restoring 1% of your maximum mana. Shield Discipline is the only one that has a slight change to it. When your Power Word Shield is completely absorbed, you restore 0.5% of your maximum mana. On live, that's 1%. They probably nerfed it down to 0.5% because, as we mentioned about 20 times in this video, Power Word Shield will not have a cooldown. So you can just start spamming it around. And then Mindbender is unchanged. Still a 1 minute cooldown, summons a Mindbender to attack the target for 12 seconds. You regenerate 0.5% of maximum mana each time the Mindbender attacks. Now the level 60 tier is not changed at all. As I mentioned before, the only change to it is that it was swapped down to being level 60 instead of 45. We have Psychic Voice, reduces the cooldown of Psychic Scream by 30 seconds. We have Shining Force, not changed at all. 45-second cooldown, creates a burst of light around a friendly target, knocking away nearby enemies and slowing their movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. And then Dominate Mind, passive. You may also control your own character while Mind Control is active, but Mind Control is a 2 minute cooldown and it cannot be used against players. Now for the level 75 tier, each of these things are at least somewhat changed. So Sins of the Many is new to Discipline. This actually used to be an artifact ability, but its effect has changed. So your damage is increased by up to 12%, diminishing for each ally affected by your atonement. So that's actually an interesting one. I guess if you just pick this, your damage is just increased by 12% passively, but then every enemy affected by atonement, that goes down by 1%, I don't know. Because I believe how the artifact ability is every target affected by atonement increase your damage by 1% or something. Now Contrition is actually returning, but it's completely changed. So this is actually added in Legion and then removed in 7.2.5. So when you heal with Penance, everyone with your atonement is also healed. And then Shadow Covenant, the only change to it is that on live it doesn't have a cooldown, but in BFA it will have a 12-second cooldown. The effect is still the same. Draw on the power of the shadow to heal the target and 400 allies within 30 yards for some amount, but leaves a shell on them absorbing the next heal they received within 6 seconds. Now the level 90 tier is not changed at all. Purge the Wicked. No cooldown, cleanse the target with fire, causing fire damage and additional fire damage over 20 seconds, spreads to an additional nearby enemy when you cast penance to the target. Divine Star is unchanged at all. You send out a star, heals all allies it goes through, then damages all enemies it goes through, comes back, heals all allies it goes through again, and then damages all enemies it goes through again. And 15-second cooldown. Halo, still the same. 40-second cooldown. You lay out a holy ring, and it expands up to 30 yards, healing all allies and dealing holy damage to enemies. Now the level 100 tier, pretty much all 3 of these have been changed. So Lenience is new, but it was actually a discipline artifact trait. But the effect is pretty much the same, but it has been buffed. Atonement reduces damage taken by 3%. I believe the artifact trait made that 2%. So, has been buffed. Luminous Barrier is completely new. So a 3-minute cooldown creates a shield on all allies within 40 yards, absorbing damage on each of them for 10 seconds. And then Evangelism, the only change to it, well, its effect is the same, extends the duration of all your active atonements by 6 seconds. But the cooldown of it has been changed from a 1.25 minute cooldown to a 1.3 minute cooldown, which is just a 3-second change, because 1.25 minutes is 75 seconds, and then 1.3 minutes is 78 seconds. Now let's take a look at the PvP talents. If you did not watch my video going over how PvP talents will work, this is how they'll work in BFA. You got 4 bubbles here. This first bubble is the same for all classes and all specs. It has Relentless, Gladiator's Medallion, and Adaptation. You can pick between one of these 3. They're all in the same tier on live, so you get to pick one. These next 3 bubbles are a giant pool of your already existing PvP talents. So as you see, it's no longer on a tier system. You can pick any of these 3. 3 that are on the same tier on live, you can now pick them in BFA if you want. Now all these names should look familiar to you because they're all the same on live. There's only 2 of them that have been slightly changed. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to read the names of each of them. If you want to know what they do, you can pause the video because I'll be mousing over all of them, or you can look at your Discipline Priest. But the 2 that have been slightly changed, I will stop and talk about them and what the change is. But anyways, we have Purification, Purified Resolve, Trinity, which the only change to Trinity is that it's no longer applied through Plea, because Plea is not a thing anymore. It's now applied through Power Word Shield. And the Strength of Soul is the other one that's been slightly changed. So your Power Word Shield reduces all physical damage taken by 15% while the shield persists. On live, that is 20%. Obviously that nerf's probably due to the fact that Power Word Shield no longer has a cooldown. Then there's Ultimate Radiance, Dome of Light, Archangel, Dark Archangel, Premonition, and then Searing Light. And those are all the PvP talents as well as all of the normal talents. And those are all the changes for Discipline Priests that are coming in Battle for Azeroth as of yet. And that wraps up my Priest overviews for the BFA beta. So you can check out my Shadow and Holy videos as well if you want to see what's changed there. Now this is the beta, so things are definitely subject to change, but if you guys like this video, you can leave a like on it, sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.